Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where the first story of the day is an unusual one for us, and that's secret Hollywood marriages. Now, why are we talking about Hollywood marriages? Well, we're not talking about just any old Hollywood marriages. We're talking about secret ones, and that's the part of the story that fascinates me. Why does said talent feel the need to keep their marriages a secret? We'll get to Margot Robbie in a second. I'm sure some of you are like, I know Margot Robbie's married. It's fascinating. But anyway, why would these people keep their marriages a secret when it has been a Hollywood tradition since the beginning of show business to use personal life milestones to promote one's career, particularly relationships, and Marriage obviously is a part of that. There have been Hollywood wedding photos, again, since the beginning of the business. Recent examples are Angelina Jolie, who has, her personal life props up her entire professional life to the point where I wouldn't even say it's her personal life, but a big part of her professional career. And then over the weekend, Joe Jonas popped the question to Sophie Turner. She said yes, spoiler alert, and it trended all day on Twitter. I thought that story was particularly amusing because it was such a Sansa-like story. She's found another husband. But anyway, I wouldn't have covered this story if it had just been Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander kind of secretly tying the knot. I say kind of secretly because, of course, it's out. We're discussing it. But they've been very private from the beginning, and they're not particularly media-friendly stars, although that might have to change for Alicia Vikander as she becomes Lara Croft. But what really made this a story, in my opinion, was another blind item over the weekend, that it was overheard at a film festival party that Margot Robbie, when someone congratulated her on her about basically 1-year anniversary to Tom Ackerley, she said, well, actually, we've been married for 3 years. And they reached out to her team for an official comment on that, and they didn't respond. So why would Margot Robbie decide to keep her marriage a secret for 3 years and then go through the bother of a sham marriage 2 years later, right? Well, I think potentially her team might have said, you're an up-and-comer, a big part of your image is that you're a sex pot, you're going to be Harley Quinn. Do you really want to be, quote unquote, married while you have to do the press for this? And I just think that's fascinating that, that she was able to keep her marriage a secret, and that, you're sleeping, TMZ. How did you not find that marriage certificate? And that now, it's in 2017 that she would decide, I want to give the illusion of being single while I do press for Suicide Squad. And it was short-lived. Now she's married anyway, but I guess her career is perhaps a little stronger, and now she's of course trying to move over into more serious films. So I guess she feels she's established enough as Harley Quinn that she can get married. And Gal Gadot is very happily and very publicly married and has kids. And she's doing very well as Wonder Woman. So I just think it's interesting the choices that were made here. And I'm curious to what you think. Do you care about Hollywood marriages? Does it affect how you feel about the talent? Would you have seen Harley Quinn differently if you had known Margot Robbie was happily married at that point for a year and a half or something? So it's fascinating. And I also, I'm curious what's going to happen with Alicia Vikander when she becomes Lara Croft. Michael Fassbender's done his share of blockbusters for sure, but they were more of ensemble pieces. This is all very much the Alicia Vikander show. And when you start doing blockbusters, you're a little bit more in the public eye. And so I don't know if she's going to be able to remain quite as private as she once was. And if she does remain as private as she once was, will that actually hurt Tomb Raider because it'll not have as many stories generated about, that whole area. So it's fascinating. It's very, very interesting. And I just get a big kick out of the fact that someone said, Margot Robbie, don't tell anybody you're married. Hilarious! All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story of the day is that Riz Ahmed continues to try and move his career forward. It's tricky. He finds himself stuck between movies and television. And he now finds himself, in talks for basically a TV movie. Netflix says they're not TV movies, but they're TV movies. So he's hot off of his win, his Emmy win for The Night Of, the first South Asian actor ever to win an Emmy. So Netflix wants him to star in their modern-day version of Hamlet set in London. It's from the screenwriter who did Macbeth, with, speaking of Michael Fassbender. That movie horribly bombed. I don't know anybody would hire that guy, but maybe he has a good idea. Hamlet's very updatable. I don't know if they use Shakespearean English, we'll have to see. But, you know, the story basically in a nutshell is a father is murdered by the uncle, and he marries this guy's mother. The uncle does, and so the ghost of the father comes to the son and demands revenge. And so that would be Riz Ahmed's character, who, you know, wonders if he's going crazy seeing the ghost of his father and wanting to, you know, get revenge, etc. Now, I think this could be really interesting. London, of course, has really been reshaped by its large immigrant population. It's become, you know, a subject of some tension considering some of the security issues over there. But I think one of the nice things about London is that it's always been very forward-thinking in terms of immigration. I said that Paddington was a movie actually about immigration. So I think that's very much a part of what, you know, the defining characteristics of London these days, and it would be nice to see that reflected in a modern day story set in that city. So Netflix, you know, is talking about this, and this would be one of their prestige films. However, it was also revealed that Netflix has a new plan to release 80 movies a year. Some will be bigger, like this one, you know, the upcoming Will Smith, David Ayer movie, Bright, some Martin Scorsese movie that cost $100 million with Robert De Niro. That seems nuts to me. I'd be like, you don't need $100 million, Martin Scorsese. I've seen your movies. You need like 60, unless they're paying, it's like paychecks to people. But I think that, you know, there are only 52 weeks in a year. So I don't understand how Netflix can realistically launch 80 movies, you know, appropriately. I mean, is this going to be another situation where some things just slip through the cracks and are never seen? I'm curious to what your Netflix viewing habits are. Do you just leave it on sometimes? Because, you know, you're paying a flat rate. They just recently, again, raised the subscription fee. But, I mean, how much Netflix do you watch? I did watch a good amount, but I don't watch. I mean, it would be very difficult. And, you know, I guess, you know, from also a professional perspective, I mean, I don't see, it would be just be too much. It's almost becomes like white noise. You know, 80 movies, you know, and especially because they can't possibly all have the same level of quality. So, you know, they can't be covered appropriately, they can't be launched appropriately, and, you know, it just, I think, speaks to Netflix's overall strategy, which I think, you know, is lacking. And, you know, and sometimes some gems slip through the crack. You know, Ozark almost slipped through the cracks. If, you know, thankfully, all of us worked really hard and got it a lot of attention, and now it's a huge hit. But, you know, no thanks to Netflix. So I don't know where they're going to find 80 movies, and I think a lot of people would be scared to be one of those 80 movies unless they were walking away with quite a bit of money, like apparently Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese are. So do you think you could watch 80 Netflix movies? You know, would you want to? I mean, Okja, I think, came and went. Death Note, you know, that did pretty well. But still, I just don't think they can successfully. I just don't think. I mean, I guess more than one movie comes out a week in theaters, but that's because different studios are backing them and they have the bandwidth to promote their horse in the race. You know, here is a race where the owner of the track owns all the horses. So it seems crazy to me. I guess that takes away incentive for caring which one wins, which really sucks for the horses. Okay, so the third story of the day, oh, I like this story a lot. This is fascinating. So this is about Justice League versus Thor Ragnarok and unorthodox, you know, marketing practices. So Justice League revealed that they have a line of clothing at Hot Topic, and I think that this is a super embarrassing line of clothing that's barely themed, and I just think that anybody associated with it should feel ashamed. I think it doesn't, you know, with the exception of the Cyborg and Flash jacket, I don't even think this, you know, would be, there's a big Wonder Woman logo on the back of the female black leather jacket, or I'm sure pleather jacket, but it just absolutely makes no sense to me that this would do anything for the brand. And it seems not even like quality merchandise, right? I would be shocked if anybody purchased it. So I was very disappointed to see that. And I think that, you know, DC continues to be a little bit too tunnel vision in terms of who they're promoting their product to. Because Thor Ragnarok did something that was really unexpected. I was going through social media and I was going to see what tweets were recommended to me. And I was surprised to come across that Thor Ragnarok had hosted a bunch of like mom reporters who, you know, there's like a whole subculture of like mom bloggers, and Disney in particular is very tied into them. There's like something called Disney Moms, and you can apply each year to be a Disney mom, and, you know, they accept a couple of people and they get you know, access that other people wouldn't. And you know, all of these I checked, a lot of these vloggers and you know they're vloggers and bloggers, have not very many views. But I guess Disney feels like the aggregate, and just creating like this buzz, will spread out. So they invited all these moms who cover entertainment and just stuff for families for a Thor Ragnarok weekend. This was crazy, and they tweeted the heck out of it. So just if you want to see it, go hashtag Thor Ragnarok event. I believe that was what they were using. So they had Carl Urban come out and shake everyone's hand. And they got to visit the studio a lot, and they got to go to the premiere for Thor Ragnarok. And clearly, Disney Marvel is like, we want these vloggers and bloggers to tell families to take their kids to see this really comedic Thor Ragnarok movie, which features Cate Blanchett as Hela. Perhaps they feel that she will appeal to, mothers as well. So I thought that was fascinating. And if I were, Warner Brothers and, the DCEU, I would go online and I would find each mom who attended that event, and I would invite them to see Justice League. I mean, families were a big factor in Wonder Woman. Are the DCEU films too dark? I don't know. I mean, Nolan, his movie was incredibly successful. And I think, there are some great dark movies for children. I mean, Jim Henson made a name for himself doing that. The Star Wars movies are getting pretty dark. So I don't understand, I guess Justice League needs to throw some porgs in there, right? Or porg equivalent. But I would be like, hey, I've got Batman. Kids love Batman. Kids love The Flash. Kids love Cyborg. I know the kids love Wonder Woman because they all went to see the movie, her solo film. Come see Justice League. I would maybe have talking points to be like, this is why it's not too dark for families. Because that just shows the business sense going over a Disney Marvel, and how I think that, the DCEU for Justice League should expand its target demographics. It's fascinating. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. Now I have a viewer question from Lillian Doris B. And Lillian, she wrote this on a bunch of videos yesterday, and she says, "Oh, Grace, hiya. I love your videos and I never miss them." Aw, thank you. I am also so freaking excited about this movie, Black Panther, and cannot wait for it to come out. Quick question. In your opinion, how much does Black Panther need to make in order to be called a success and guarantee a second movie? Great question, Lillian. I even thought about making this its own video, but it's a really simple answer. So that's why it became the viewer question on today's Morning Movie News. So the short answer is that it needs to make at least what Ant-Man did, which is $519 million. That would be disappointing. Wonder Woman, I've said, 2 very similar films in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in terms of changing the way audiences in the industry see demographics that usually don't lead and direct blockbusters, women, and then of course, black talent. So Wonder Woman made $821 million. So it would be nice if Black Panther could come somewhere near that. But it has to at least match Ant-Man at $519. These are worldwide numbers. And then also, we'll talk about worldwide in a second, though. Black Panther has an unfortunate, literally unfortunate problem. But then it would be really ideal if it could at least match Doctor Strange, because that's a weird sell. Benedict Cumberbatch, right? He's not had a lot of success on the big screen. Magic, that was kind of like a tough sell to some degree as well. And that managed to do $677. So let's just say it would be nice if it had like a 6 in front of it, or even better, a 7. I think 8 is going to be unrealistic, something in the 8s. So I would like to see it with a 6 or a 7. But at least as long as it has a 5, I think they'll be in good shape. And that's because we're in new territory here. There has never been a blockbuster at this level before featuring a primarily black cast. It just hasn't been done. I mean, the Blade movies were headed up by Wesley Snipes, but that was a long time ago, and the business was very different, and movie-going habits were very different. That's 1998 and 2002. And those movies did well, the first 2 Blade movies in particular, but they never cleared $200 million. And obviously that would be a huge disappointment for Black Panther. And then there's the, as I said, the very unfortunate problem of the fact that a lot of overseas audiences have a problem with black talent. I mean, we've unfortunately seen John Boyega minimized on Star Wars posters when they take the film to China. But then Fast and Furious movies do well over there. So make up your mind, China. Give Black Panther a chance. It looks fabulous. Part of it takes place in South Korea. Come on. So that's the answer to your question, Lillian. I think that it should, again, It would be ideal to be somewhere in the 7s. The 6s would be okay, high 6s around Doctor Strange. I don't think it's going to be in the 8s. That would be a very pleasant surprise, but we'll take anything with a 5 in front of it. That would be acceptable. So I'm curious, what do you think Black Panther will do, and what do you think would be considered a success for the movie at the box office? And how bad do you think the overseas problem is going to be? Don't forget that overseas was a problem for Wonder Woman as well. I think not only because of a lack of action, female talent, and also I think some of her, Gal Gadot's, her position with Palestine, Israel versus Palestine. I think that was a factor to some degree. But, Wonder Woman just did so well domestically, cleared $400 million, and that really helped it. And so maybe, the domestic box office would help Black Panther. I mean, it should be able to be done, considering again the success of Fast and Furious. But Fast and Furious is a more diverse cast, so we'll see. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it down below. And thank you for not only your question, Lillian, but your fabulous enthusiasm. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Write your own thoughts down below about today's top 3 stories and that viewer question. Anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.